The story of Shenmue talks about a teenager seeking to avenge his father who was murdered. In the two previous videos I uploaded, I retold the story of Ryo Hazuki, but I glossed over the history of Shenmue from the real world to the game. You see, Shenmue has been riddled with bad decisions and failures throughout its time, from 1999 to 2001 and from 2019 to 2022. The original game was released by Sega in December 29, 1999 on the Dreamcast, a console which was going to be dwarfed alongside its competition in only 2 months. Because in March 4th, 2000, the PlayStation 2 released with all of its glory, and all of a sudden, any other console started fighting for their place at number 2. In 2001, they released Shenmue 2, which didn't save the Dreamcast and cost Sega around $70 million to release both games to North America. In 2015, at E3, the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter was announced, long after the Dreamcast passed its prime. The crowdfunding for Shenmue 3 is still the most successful crowdfunding for a video game on Kickstarter by gaining $6.6 million from 69,000 backers. Nice. In 2022, they released the Shenmue anime with a staggering 7.5 on IMDb and was cancelled after only 1 season. Now, if Shenmue was released on the PlayStation 2, would it have garnered more success? Most likely not. The controls are janky, and the storyline is way too slow-paced. But I truly do believe it would have been successful if it was released in 1998 rather than 1999. But the story of Shenmue is really not a bad one at all. But at this point, no one really cares. Ryo Hazuki is chasing after Lan Di to avenge his father. But we only recently learned that Lan Di, the man who killed Iwao Hazuki, the father of Ryo, had also lost his father, murdered no less. After that, he was raised by the Chiyu men and seek to avenge his father's death. And the road led him to Iwao Hazuki. The game doesn't really tell you if Iwao actually killed Lan Di's father, so it's only speculation. But I would like to believe that Lan Di at least did his due diligence and investigated before reaching to the conclusion of killing Ryo's father. And now, Ryo is on the same path as Lan Di, yet we say Ryo is a good guy and Lan Di is the evil one. But let's see where the story of Shenmue 3 goes. So our objective for this game is to figure out what happened to Shinwa's father. In the previous game, he randomly disappeared, and in the third game, we figure out what happened to him and where he went while trying to pursue Lan Di still. My first impression of the game is that there is a lot of conversation that I can't exactly skip or avoid. There's a lot of cutscenes that get triggered randomly around the world, and I can't exactly avoid it or skip it, so I have to sit there and listen to it, which is a really bad decision to make. To have the player sit through an entire dialogue without the ability to skip or hurry the conversation whatsoever. For example, one of them is a DLC conversation that I didn't really intend to have, but yet I still sat through it because I didn't have a choice, and it triggered randomly as I'm walking around the world. There's actually a lot of positives and negatives in the game that I'll get into throughout telling the story. The first one is, on our way to the village, we come across a dojo where Shinwa tells us that we can practice here and train with other kung fu masters to improve our skills and our techniques. This is a huge positive in the game because I actually enjoyed this section a lot, but I'll get into it later. We head towards the bridge that connects to Bayou Village, and 2 guards stop us and they tell us that there have been some thugs harassing the villagers. We have to figure out who they are and what exactly they want. Asking around the village, somebody tells us that they attacked the house of one of the stonemasons and we have to wait for him to come back. So around 7 p.m., we talk to the stonemason and he says that he wasn't actually there, but he's heard from someone's wife that they tried to attack one of the guards' wives that stopped us early on at the bridge. So the next day we go and find where the guard is, and we have a conversation with him, and he tells us that there is a bookie in the village that may know something here and there. So one of the negatives that they added in the game is that when you control Ryo, which by the way, this was never a thing in the first 2 games, when you control Ryo and start running with him, your health bar loses more and more points. This is a huge negative because you could easily trigger a free battle where you have no choice but to fight whoever it is you're fighting with very low health. We head towards the bookie and he tells us that he'll only talk to us is that if we spar with him and beat him. So after I spar with him and I lose, he tells me that my kung fu is lacking, so I better go to the dojo and practice. A little positive about this game is that the dojo has training grounds that you can practice in, and they actually affect your stats and how you can progress through the game. You can fight against 5 different stages of enemies. Each enemy is stronger than the last. You can spar with some people that will increase your attack power, and then you can train in horse stance or the 1-inch punch, and that will increase your endurance. Now, the more endurance you have, the more health bars you have, and the more attack power you have, the stronger your attacks will be. So to avoid having to go through this multiple times throughout the story, I decided to bang it out all at once. So you can see me like crouching, doing the horse stance, and you can see me doing the 1-inch punch, and then dang it, just maxing out all my goddamn stats. I was the stats king, baby. Nobody out here could be better than me. I was maxed out on endurance. Well, not maxed out. I was maxed out on 1-inch punches. I was maxed out on horse stance. I was maxed out on everything. No one had better stats than Rio. After I beat the bookie, he gives me a description of 2 guys. One with long hair, the other one is bald with a spider tattoo on his head. I ask around the village, and on my way towards where they were last seen, I come across a bunch of children, and they say, "Hey, mister, could you play with us, mister?" They don't sound like that. It's kind of, that also sounded like Toad. Mister! Play with us, mister! Sorry, they didn't sound that sinister either. They asked us to play hide and seek, to which we do, and we find them, and one of the kids, he's a little shithead. He went and hid inside the house, which is kind of shitty, by the way. That should be against the rules. We're playing outside, keep playing outside. Don't go inside the house. Anyway, inside that house, we find that it was broken into and already flipped upside down. We ask him what happened, and he says some people came in here before and wrecked the place. So we investigate, we do a little search, and we find a list of names. So far, we don't know what the names are, but there's a character that looks like a smiley face, and I kind of like that. I thought I should point it out. It kind of looks like a smiley face. It's kind of cute. We go to where the thugs were seen last, and we actually meet them, the long-haired guy and the bald head with a spider tattoo, and we get into a fight. I beat the 2 thugs, and I get a chance to fight their boss. Here's the deal with the boss. It doesn't matter how strong you are, which, by the way, Rio was very strong when I fought him because I spent several days just training and doing nothing but training. I couldn't beat the boss. But when his health bar reaches a certain point, the game switches to a cutscene to where you see Rio gets knocked out by the leader. Now, this is a negative in the game. The game will not let you progress through the story, no matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter. You have to learn a specific move to counter one specific enemy. This happens twice in the game, and it happens with these miniature leaders that you have to fight against. So after being knocked out, Rio wakes up and walks around and meets someone who knew his father and knew Landy's father as well. He tries to get answers out of him, but he's not really really answering anything. And so Rio asks him for help on how to counter the thug's leader. Of course, he doesn't teach us, but he does tell us who could possibly teach us, and he lives out from an abandoned temple. The only way for us to lure him out is to buy wine and dumplings. Now, the wine and dumplings are an area called the Panda Market. Now, let's travel back a little bit. They took away the ability to gamble with money in the game. Instead, change it to tokens, meaning that you have to spend money for tokens, and then when you get the tokens, you can gamble with the tokens, and then afterwards you can exchange the tokens for prizes. Now, this is really horrible, because early on in the game, I spent all my money on tokens, and I didn't have enough money for food, meaning that I was low on health the majority of the time, and I just gambled my tokens, like, I just gambled all my tokens, and I had a lot of tokens, but I didn't actually have any food or real money. So most of the time I was playing on 1 HP. When we managed to get to the Panda Market though, I stocked up on everything. From that point on, the game became relatively easy, or I should say easier, because I exchanged all the prizes for food and jewels, and I ended up selling the jewels, which I had around like 6,000 Hong Kong monies, $6,000 or something like that. We buy the dumplings, we buy the wine, and we head towards the abandoned temple. We hide away, and then he just yonks it from the inside the temple, and he just starts eating it. And he's like, Rio comes out, he's like, "Hey, excuse me, can you teach me how to counter this thing?" And he's like, well, I suppose I can teach you, but first, let me see your horse stance. So we spent several days doing horse stances, and if he feels like it, he'll tell me to catch chickens, which basically like the old Rocky Balboa training thing where they release a chicken and he chases after it and then he grabs it. The chicken grabbing is a quick time event where you run after a chicken, and when you get close, you get a quick time event and then you grab it. It's fairly easy. So he spent several days, and then he tells me something that I found really, really interesting, and it's actually like a huge positive in the game personally. He tells me to go beat the third Dawn in the dojo. Now, if you remember, I already said that I've spent several days training in the dojo, meaning that I fought every single enemy. He tells me to go beat the third Dawn in the dojo, to which Ryo says, "Oh, do you mean the Red Dawn? Oh, I already beat him." And then the character actually reacts to what you said. He goes, "What? You already did? Oh, well, okay. Grab chickens then." Weird that he tells me to grab chickens after I mean, it's fine, whatever. Okay, so we spent several days again just buying him, and then he tells me to buy him an expensive wine. This one costs like 2,500 money, right? 2,500 monies. Thankfully, I was good on money. So I go and buy him the wine, come back, and then he finally teaches me the reverse body check, or a body check is called, something like that. I learned the move from him, and I head to where the thugs were. They were actually looking for one of the stonemasons that are on the list that we found. All the names on that list are all stonemasons. One of them is named Mr. Kai, or Mr. K. We go to him first, and then he tells us that the thugs were looking for the Phoenix Mirror, which Ryo has. So now that we know what they're after, we go and try to find the last stonemason that they were looking for. And that stonemason was hiding in an area called the Hermit's Grove, or something along those lines. Hermit something. It's just a bunch of old people that already retired, and the stonemason they're looking for is a very young man who happens to be hiding there. We go there and see that the thugs are already there. And after beating them and beating their leader, we interrogate the leader. We ask him several questions. He's not really about it. He's not really answering. He doesn't want to snitch on anybody. So Shenmue, right? This is probably like pretty badass, but Shenmue says, "Can you guys just leave for a second?" And then the camera cuts to the outside of the house and the guy screaming. We don't know what happened. We don't know what she did. But as soon as we come back, he is timid and he's willing to answer anything. So we ask him all the questions that we need to ask him. He tells us that Shenmue's father has been kidnapped and taken to Now City, or Now. It's a section in the game. It's a second part of the game. It's called Now something. So we have to go to it by boat. Before we head toward Now Village or Now City, we have to talk to some of the old people, and one of the old people is a blind lady that tells us that we need a scroll. After doing some puzzle work and we collect some wooden plates and put them inside the lighthouse, we find a scroll, and Shenmue reads the scroll to the blind lady, and the scroll essentially says the reason why so many people want the Phoenix and the dragon mirrors is because there is a lot of treasure hidden behind the closed doors of that cave that we found. So we say our goodbyes to everybody. Shenmue and Ryo head towards the city. However, before we head out, as soon as we leave the blind lady's house, a familiar face comes out. Remember the henchman in the first game? We have a quick fight with him. He managed to grab the scroll out of our hands, and he could have easily delivered it to Landy, but his ego got in the way, and he called Ryo weak, and then Shenmue basically just, I guess, manipulated him, saying like, "You're not strong. If you were strong, you would fight. Only the weak run away." And he's like, "I'm not weak." Again, I don't know why I gave him that voice. "I'm not weak. Fine, I'll fight you." That sounded like a witch. We fight him. After we beat him, we grab the scroll, and then we head towards Now City, finally. And we get in our hotel, we sleep for the night, and then the next day, we start asking around the city about any new visitors. After asking a few people, after asking like a few stonemasons there that we stumble on, they tell us that if you're really looking for newcomers, then you should check the harbor where they take pictures of the visitors. So we head back towards the harbor and we see Shenmue's father in one of the photos. We take the picture and we notice something in the background. There is a Buddhist shop that's around the city. So now what we have to do is ask around the Buddhist shops until we find the right one and talk to the owner and see what happened there. As I'm walking around asking other different Buddhist shops, we come across Ren from the second game. Ren is there because he said in the second game that he's willing to help us, and he basically just followed the paper trail of Ryo until he managed to find us. We find the right shop, and then it's only a little kid working there, and he says, "Come back at 7, my dad is gonna be here." So around 7 p.m. p.m., we ask the dad, and he says that I don't recognize Shinwa's father, but he recognizes one of the guys in the picture, and he says that he's one of the guys that tries to shake down shops and that you'll be able to find him near a cafe. So Rio heads back to the hotel, and then the next day, we start heading towards the cafe, and lo and behold, it's the same guy that's in the picture. So we go and stop him. We quickly slap him around. Honestly, that's literally, it's all humiliating. He's trying to shake down a girl at the shop to give him money for protection, but it doesn't work. Rio comes up, slaps him around, and he runs away. We follow his little trail, and we see that he is having lunch with his other companion, I guess. I suppose. They both start attacking us, and we again slap him around. They disappear. They leave. They run away, and we ask one of the workers that was at the shop there, and he says that they actually belong to a gang called the Red Snakes. And he tells us what the Red Snakes logo looks like. I think is it's two-headed snakes that are crossing each other. And we start walking around Now City, and we find a boat with two red snakes on it. Essentially parked. Is it parked or boated? Docked. Oh my god, it's docked. It docked next to a temple. So we go and ask. We go and investigate the temple. And there's a girl there who happens to be honestly pretty cute. She attacks us thinking that we're one of the thugs that already destroyed the place. She becomes one of Rio's friends. She's very sweet. She's very cute, honestly. I kind of like her. And she says that if you want to learn more about the Red Snakes, maybe you should ask the restaurant that's next to the temple. They deal with this sort of shit all the time. We go and ask the people in the restaurant, and they tell us that if you really want to know where the Red Snakes are, then maybe you should ask one of our employees who chased them away multiple times. We look around for this employee, and he tells us that most of the time they hang out in the VIP area where you go and gamble. We have to find a way into the VIP area. There's of course two ways to do this. One is that you go on a waiting list for 2 months, and I'm pretty sure the game would be more than happy to make me wait 2 whole months. And the second option is to have a recommendation from an already VIP. So I guess we're playing Guess Who at this point. As Rio walks around the city, he stumbles upon a couple who seemingly look rich, and the lady gets her purse snatched. The thief runs away, and Rio chases after him. We chase after him through a bunch of quick-time events. He gets stopped by a guy in a boat who happens to be a kung fu master, and he beats him. He grabs the purse and hands it to us. We go back to the hotel and give it to the receptionist, and she, in turn, gives it to the couple. So I start asking around about who may be a VIP in the gambling area, and somebody tells me that it's possible that rich people are VIPs. And a light bulb lights above Rio's head. I know 2 rich people that I just got their purse back. I'll go and ask them. Rio asks the couple for a recommendation, and the husband is very dismissive. He's like, "Oh, what the hell? What? I'm sorry. What? You want a recommendation? Get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm not giving you a recommendation." Of course, he's very mean. He's very mean. His wife, on the other hand, yells at him, and he's a simp for his wife, so he immediately gives us a VIP recommendation immediately after she says, "Give it to him. He's the one that got my purse back." We get our VIP access, and now this section is actually I found to be really funny. There's 2 females there sitting with the 2 thugs that we met before, and I found this part hilarious because they're bragging to 2 entertainers. You know, the 2 girls are there to entertain. They're meant to be hosts. They're just hosting them, so obviously they're gonna accept whatever they say. So the 2 guys are bragging, saying like, "Ha, we beat the shit out of a kid earlier today." And then the guy, then his friend who got his ass whooped is like, "Yeah, we did do that, didn't we?" And so Rio is just standing there, just listening to them talk shit, and then he taps the shoulder of one of them. He's like, "Whoa, big brother, he's here. Let's run away." But of course they don't run away. And then I have to fight like 6 of them or 5 of them in total, and I destroy the VIP area. I'm honestly surprised I wasn't fined like 30 grand for this. I destroyed the entire VIP area like it was fucking nothing. The entire place is fucking run down. It's completely gone by the time I was done. I interrogate one of the thugs, and he tells me that they have a warehouse behind the hotel where they usually meet up. And if he wants answers, he can go there. We head behind the hotel, and we go to the warehouse, and we fight the thugs again for the second time. And of course we beat him, and then we come across their boss. Now their boss, of course, I can't beat. Why? Because the game won't let me. That's cool. Even though that his health bar is completely gone, the game will not let me progress. That's okay. He started doing these specific moves, these animalistic style moves to which Rio has never seen before. Of course, this is 1997, so bear in mind this is a long time ago. Ren gets mad that Rio got his ass beat by this guy. And so Ren is like, you're weak. I'll go there and handle it myself. He also gets his ass beat. And now I have to figure out what his style was so that Rio can figure out a move to counter it. Rio starts asking other Kung Fu masters questions about what the move possibly could be. And we reach to the conclusion that someone out of the Kung Fu sellers, there's shops that specifically sell Kung Fu moves, maybe one of them will know. We find one of them and then we start explaining to the seller what those moves were. And we start describing it. Sometimes they looked like a snake. Sometimes he looked like a dinosaur. Sometimes he looked like a dragon, whatever, right? We start explaining what moves we saw. And then he tells us that there is one specific move that could easily counter this style. And he doesn't sell it there. It's an ancient move that it's only sold in one place. So I go to that place and it cost 5,000. I don't have enough money for that. Sadly, after I spent 2,500 on wine, and then I spent another amount of, then I spent like 2,000 on the VIP ticket, I don't have $5,000 to buy the specific move. Okay, so now I have to go and gamble more. And I gambled my heart out. I gambled my little heart out. I spent several hours gambling actually, just because I didn't have enough money for more tokens, so I couldn't gamble more. So I had to gamble with the tokens that I had, which is like 30 tokens. And then I just kept gambling and gambling until I was able to gamble more money. And of course, there's a lot of saves and load and saves and load and saves a load. So finally, after several hours of gambling, I'm finally able to buy the move that I need. And sadly, when I buy the book, the move to counter that specific style is torn apart. There's one small bit at the end where it's torn apart and I can't exactly see what that move is. Now I have to ask around a bunch of Kung Fu masters, and I remember one Kung Fu master specifically that happened to be pretty good. So I go and ask the guy on the boat to help me with this move. And he tells me that I'm determined for revenge. But it's not like in the second game where people just kept hounding me about revenge and whatnot. No, in this game, he actually does help me. But he has a stipulation. He wants me to go beat the white dragon at the dojo. To which Rio replied, I've already beaten all the dragons. And then the guy is impressed. He says, you're very determined, and he likes it. Yippee, 2 big thumbs up. And he actually teaches me the move. And it's called the reverse body check or something like that. It's the same move, body check, but it's something like irreversible, something like that. We learn the move, and with a newfound determination, we head towards the warehouse, and there's a woman sitting there, and Ren and Rio ask her, excuse me, hey, where's everybody? And she goes, well, this is my land, and I asked the guys that were here to leave. Okay, well, fine then, thanks. Where did they go? And then she responds with, they went to the old castle. And she tells us that they went to the old castle after kidnapping Shenmue. So now they have Shenmue and Shenmue's father at the old castle. Now we really have a reason to go. We spent a day just roaming around the city because the game just tells us, okay, well, you only have 1 day left, so make sure you finish everything here first before you continue with the story. So the next day, me, Ren, the Kung Fu boat master, there's another Kung Fu master, and the cute temple girl, all 5 of us head towards the old castle. Ren decided it would be a good idea to buy a fake replica of the Phoenix Mirror in case they need to trade something. We head to the castle and we start beating everyone in our way, and we start beating everyone in our path there. Ren and Rio are working together. The temple girl and one of the Kung Fu masters are working together, and of course the boat master, Kung Fu master, is working alone. We wreak havoc all throughout the castle, and we stumble upon the woman that was in the warehouse. Now this woman now is all in red. Red dress, red background, red chair, red hair, all the way reds. She says that if you want Shenmue safe, you have to give her the Phoenix Mirror. To which Ren puts his hand in his pocket and Rio stops him, and Rio gives her the actual real Phoenix Mirror. Now you might be wondering, of course the they could tell which one is fake and which one is not. No, they actually can't. You know why? Because even Rio was fooled when Ren pulled out the fake Phoenix mirror. He pulled it out and he said, how about this? And he's like, what? You took mine? Is obviously no, this is a replica. So realistically, Ren could have traded with the fake mirror and Shenmue would have been safe. But Rio, not taking any chances, gives the girl the real mirror. Shenmue at this point is safe. Shenmue's father is safe. The girl tells us that Landy is all the way at the tippity top of the castle. We start making our way there, and of course all the enemies that we face against are very weak, so one punch just easily ends them. And something interesting happened. Because this game is crowdfunded, and of course if you pay a specific amount of money to the crowdfunding, then there'll be a chance that you're going to be in the game. So when you reach the top, there are several characters, which I actually thought was actually kind of cool. There are several characters that almost kind of look out of place. When you look at their faces, you think, these guys realistically shouldn't be here. But these guys probably paid a lot of money to be part of the game, where Rio beats their ass in the game. So I actually think that was actually kind of cool. Again, it's crowdfunded. They paid for it. They're in the game. They get their ass beat by Rio and Ren. We go up a little more, and then we face against the animal style guy, and then we beat him, and then we actually face against Landy. But Landy is surrounded by 3 other Kung Fu masters. Now, here's where I think it's bullshit. Because Rio didn't have to learn any new moves to beat any of the 3 masters. If Landy specifically picked them to protect him, wouldn't you think that they're so extremely advanced and strong that Rio wouldn't be able to beat them that easily? But both Rio and Ren beat him so easily that Landy is almost offended. Rio and Landy have a little fight, have a little scuffle. Of course, you're in control of Rio, but you can't land a single hit on him. No matter what, it's almost impossible for you to land a single hit on Landy at all. It's impossible. He is so advanced that you can't do anything. He puts his hand on Rio's throat and says, I'll reunite you with your father. Which, by the way, is a fucking baller line. Let me just say that. Hey man, you've been fucking bothering me all along. I'm gonna fucking make you meet your dad. Essentially killing him. Ren, the savior, pulls out the replica Phoenix and says, hey, stop. You want this, don't you? Let Rio go and I'll give you the Phoenix mirror. Which Landy obliges. He lets Rio go. Ren goes to hand it and then yeets it out of the window. Landy, of course, is upset. He looks over at the window and then Ren grabs Rio and then run off. Of course, Rio doesn't want to go because he wants to fight Landy, even though he already lost. But Ren says, you're stupid and you're no use to anybody dead. They run off, and then the castle starts burning down and start collapsing. And then the lady in the red dress, lady in red. Sorry. Anyway, the lady in red says, ha, you fool. Landy, you fool. I have the Phoenix mirror, and the Chiyo men belong to me now. And the game cuts to Ren, Rio, and Shenmue walking along China Wall, and they just talk in their heads, and we can hear them talk, and that's where the game ends. Yep. Yeah, that's right. It ends at another cliffhanger. Is it gonna finish? Is Rio gonna get his revenge? Who knows? Just don't forget to like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And also, I'm sorry it took so long to get out there, but life's been hard, man. Life's been hard. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video, and don't forget to share it with a friend. Please, it helps me out a lot. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, bye, bye.
You'd better not run, Landy. I will avenge my father.